Huh?
No, but these guys aren't out yet anyways.
Well, how do we sit? Where do we sit? Where do we sit? 7 o'clock. I'm ready as usual. Leaving town at all? Or are you leaving town at all?
Well, we're going Thursday to Phoenix to watch some.
He's gonna get the signatures on.
games.
Oh, nice.
We're going down to Florida at the end of the month for 2 days. We go back and forth as much as we can.
Going to North Carolina to see my son at the end of the month.
Where does he live?
Camp Lejeune in Jackson.
Oh.
It's a Marine.
Oh. So he gets a couple days off, maybe?
No, but we're going down like we're gonna spend the night.
Maybe do musical chairs. You got 6 months
Wednesday,
from
then
around.
Thursday,
Rotate a little bit.
Yeah, forever. He's got
Yeah,
the weekend off.
yeah, we've got it.
No, we just moved out of seat, like you know.
No.
How's your fam?
Good. How about you?
We're plugging, you know?
Saw a cute picture
Some are just right.
Jimmy with Erica.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really kind of a good egg.
You probably don't have to.
And you guys, Eric's the one that here.
Walking your way up this one.
Call the meeting to order.
I appreciate that.
Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Here.
Trustee Dodge.
Here.
Trustee Guerra.
Here.
Trustee Ruzick.
Here.
Trustee Calandrello.
Here.
Trustee Carroll.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of February 19, 2018 regular meeting minutes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Carroll.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of February 19, 2018.
Second.
Are there any changes to the minutes? Call the roll.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Orland Park Chamber of Commerce raffle license.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Guerra.
I move to approve issuing a raffle license to the Orland Park Chamber of Commerce to conduct a raffle during their annual March Membership Madness event that will take place on Thursday, March 22nd, 2018.
Second.
Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Honoring the Special Olympic athletes who competed in 2017 Summer Games.
So I want to take this opportunity to welcome the Special Olympic athletes from Orland Park that competed in the Special Olympic Games, and we'll take time to honor each of them for all of their hard work and sacrifice and all the effort they put forth, and some outstanding achievement from our Special Olympic group. So first for our track and field athletes. We'll call all the track and field athletes, and then we'll go from there. Track and field, Karen Cox, first place. Bretman, fourth place. Congratulations to all the track and field athletes for a job well done.
Good job.
Congratulations. Dawn.
There's Chris.
Congratulations.
Good job, guys. Next, for the sport of powerlifting, we've got some serious performers here. Chris Bauman, first place. Jacob Bellevue, first place.
Whoa, what is
Matt Dorneweird,
Hey, Matt.
Carrie Ganser,
Hey, Carrie.
Daniel Westman, first place. Kevin Whitcott, first place.
Hey, Kevin.
That boy Cap.
Great job. AJ Vaughn, first place. Matthew Suzuki. Matt Shear, first place. Terry Quinn, second place. Tony Balpersell, second place. Clearly, we have an outstanding powerlifting team with all of these. Slide in just a little bit. Here. Over there, camera over there. Right here. Great job, guys.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Next for the bocce ball team. Laura Cerny, first place. Nick Lamp, first place. Chris Phillips, first place. Debbie Viscasso, first place. Leslie Gasser. And then is Megan Noring? No. So this is the bocce ball team, also very high performers. Nice job, Ed. Joey Batistich. Ann Serba. Great job, man. Kyle Corbett. Julie Finopoulos. Leanne Manning. And Joe Bruce is also first place. So thanks to the swimming team, also a bunch of high performers. Right over here. Over here. Hi guys. One more. Perfect. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Nick and all of the Special Rec team for all of their hard work for making this event possible. And thanks again to the Special Rec Olympians who did such a great job. Give them a round of applause. Hey, Joe. Gary, can you get this for me?
Great job. As always.
All right, Boris, thank you. Excellent.
Nice job.
Thank you so much.
Technology Commission?
I'll entertain a motion.
Me, Jim, usually. Here. It's usually you. What? Yeah. Good.
Move to advise and consent the appointment of Gregory Lewis and Jack Korvick to the Technology Commission.
Second.
Just screwing around with something. Thanks, Mike.
Call the roll.
Trustee Dadge?
Aye.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Guerra? Trustee Ruzick?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Carroll?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye. And now I will swear in Greg Lewis.
I had a feeling this would be really thin.
Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Gregory Lewis,
Having been appointed to the office of the Technology Commission
having been appointed to the office of the Technology Commission
in the Village of Orland Park,
in the Village of Orland Park,
in the counties of Cook and Will aforesaid,
in the counties of Cook and
Will aforesaid,
Aforesaid. Yeah.
aforesaid,
aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the Technology Commission
of the office of the Technology Commission.
to the best of my ability.
Best of my ability.
Congratulations for showing up.
Thanks.
You can work on aforesaid.
Come for the job. Does he want a photo with the, is that, you're asking if he wants the photo?
Yeah.
That could be damaging on the road.
Exercise.
Ready?
Yep.
Lions Club presentation?
You don't have a podium. No podium? Joe.
Joe.
Joe,
Joe.
give him a mic.
I got a big lunch.
We need to record it.
Yeah, you,
several of you know.
yeah, you
We'll
do.
vouch for that.
Yeah, you do.
We're okay? Ready?
I am Steve Anton. I'm a director with the Orland Park Lions and trustees. And Mr. Mayor, it's that time of year again when we come before you and seek your an okay for Orland Days this year. And we're going to work hard to present the same festival that we presented over the years and do our club and the village proud with a few changes, if you'd let me go over them real quick. The club has made the decision this year to go down to a 4-day festival instead of 5. So we'll be starting on May 31st and ending on June 3rd. But we need the property okayed from May 28th through June 4th. Now I'll do all the paperwork with the village and get that all okayed. One of the sad things that we have to announce this year is the Orland Park Lions will not parade. We can't do it this year. We can't afford it. It's been a losing proposition for us for years, so we will not parade this year. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, we ask the support of staff and the Village of Orland in helping us do another Orland Days this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Any comments? Trustee Garrett.
And I'm sure we have other Lions members here, there's a couple. Their Norm Myers Day?
Norm Dyer's Day will happen, and unfortunately it will not be referred to as Norm Meyer because we have changed vendor or suppliers for the carnival because we didn't have a very good, I'm missing the word right now, experience with our long-time carnival provider last year. And we're very embarrassed about what happened, but we've made improvements and we're on our way. But we still will do the event the way we've always done it.
Thursday.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you again very much. I've been enjoying it for 50 years, or 48 or so. So looking forward to next year.
Thank you very much. We'll see you in July.
No, you'll see us the end of May.
Yeah, right. Consent agenda?
Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Calandrello.
I move to approve the consent agenda A through L.
Are there any items to take off consent? So I would like to take 2 items off consent, items G and items I.
G and I.
Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Calandrello.
I move to approve the consent agenda A through L with the exception of G and I.
Call the roll.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Guerra?
Aye.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick?
Aye.
Trustee Carroll? Mayor Peacock?
Aye.
3 dump body and snow removal equipment package installations.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve utilizing the NJPA contract for the purchase and installation of 3 dump body and snow removal equipment packages from Henderson Truck Equipment of Huntley, Illinois, in an amount not to exceed $228,206.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. And the reason I took this off consent is we've been having a discussion, we had a discussion last week about lease purchase, alternative fuels. Is this a decision we have to make today, or can we wait until we more flesh out that discussion more that we had the other day?
The only thing I would I would suggest is that these are the snowplows that we're looking at, and for those reasons, the alternative fuels, until we could do a little bit more research on whether or not the CNG would provide enough power for those snowplows, I would ask that we would be able to do a little bit more research on that piece of it. I've got Director Ingram here that can answer any more specific questions.
Well, I guess one of my questions from the other day is we talked about potentially leasing a vehicle and testing them out, and do we need to make a purchase decision today, or can we do a little bit more research, since these are snow plows, like you said, and they're not till the end of the year, we weren't going to need them again. Is it something we can hold off for just a few weeks?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Trustee Carroll.
Well, my only thought is, and just to give perspective in my comments, is that for 2.5 years, I believe I was the chairman of Public Works. Trustee Fenton's doing that now. In my current role as finance chair, I've also continued to sit in meetings because now instead of talking just about alternative fuels, we're also talking about lease versus purchase. In that discussion, however, that we had last week, I think there were still some concerns. Mr. Morgan spoke to them, Director Ingram spoke to him about the snow plows with alternative fuels. It was torque, it was the ability to push snow. And there was a discussion, you're right, Mr. Mayor, about potentially maybe leasing a vehicle and LPG, a vehicle and CNG, and comparing them. But my understanding at that time was that we're not talking about snow plows at this time. It'd be more of a mid-chassis or a mid-sized vehicle. I know that members of the police department did test out a squad car last year, but they only had it for a weekend. So while I'm fully behind what you were suggesting, which is maybe leasing one of each and finding places to fuel them while we're doing that, it wasn't my understanding that was for the snow plows while we work through those issues that we brought up during those meetings.
Well, I think the other thing we talked about was lease versus buy decisions as well, correct?
That is correct. We did go through the joint purchasing cooperative with this, and then with leasing, as you'll see later on with the police vehicles, we do look into leasing versus buying, and when we do it in bulk, if we do it in bulk, leasing looks like it would probably be more beneficial to the village, but doing the 1 or 2 at a time or 4 at a time, it does become a little bit more, it's not cost effective to do the leasing on that.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Carroll.
One other comment I forgot to mention, when we did talk about leasing versus buying, which is why I said on those meetings, the discussion was kind of gravitating towards, for a snow truck, which I believe Mr. Morgan told us we sometimes have for 15 or 17 years, John, if I'm not mistaken. Lease probably wouldn't be the option we would go with on those vehicles. It would be a purchase because they last for so long. Whereas when we were talking about vehicles that we rotate quicker, like squad cars, and that's when we talked about that. But even during that discussion, I believe you and I both agreed at that time that we wouldn't be looking at leasing our entire fleet at once.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I still think there's not a reason to hold off this purchase or a vehicle, squad car purchase because of those two issues, which were leading us towards, if we're going to do that, it would be more of a phased-in approach down the road.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Dodge.
So I guess broadly, right, I have less strong opinions about the lease versus buy, because I'd be surprised if we could get a lease that would beat our cost of money if we're doing it commercially, but we'll find that out, right? So that one I think is important, but I'm not as focused on that. The reason, I won't mind talking about this, and I approved this at the committee level, is, where are we as a broader system here to think about the alternative fuels question? It's a work in progress, and I don't necessarily have a problem buying something we need, although, John, I think the snow season's over, right?
Right, but please.
I'm kidding, John. Relax, John. We're not going to hold you up for a snowplow. But, I'd love to figure, so I guess my question for all of us is, when do we get serious about making those go, no-go decisions on the fleet vision we have for the next 10 to 15 years? Lease, long-term rollovers, maybe LP for the cop cars, don't know. Can we go CNG, et cetera? So we've got a broader conversation. So when do we get to that?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
I met with staff after you and Trustee Carroll met with staff, and one of the things that we did discuss when it came to the leasing, it was more for the F-150s or transferring over to the F-350s, and also the squad cars and/or other park vehicles that we do would be more applicable for a lease. We also went into the different types of alternative fuel, and they are getting back to us with more information, and so it's an ongoing process. It hasn't been forgotten. We just met last week about it, but one of the things that did come up in the conversation was that a dump truck like this that's going to have a plow on it or any type of larger vehicle might not be able to have the capacity to function at the as efficiently if it was using the alternative fuel.
You mean CNG?
The CNG and/or...
So, John, they just don't have the torque or the horsepower off an engine with CNG?
A similar engine between CNG and diesel, they do not have the same power. In order to get the same type of power and the same type of range, we would have to increase the size of the engine, which increases the cost. We'd also have to increase the size of the fuel capacity, which increased the cost. Keep in mind, as we talk about delaying, and I just want to throw this in there, Trustee Dodge, the lead time for the trucks as they're currently proposed is right around 8 months. So I was extraordinarily excited to have this moving forward today, because we know that we would have seen them by the next snow season. As we delay, or if we do delay the recommendation, then that does change the picture. And there's many questions that we still need to get answered with regards to CNG.
Okay, no, I got it. So that, I guess that was my central point, which is if we're all committed, then maybe this can be a board-level discussion some night where we have a discussion item and talk it through, because that's a non-trivial decision. It might jack up the cost of the purchase, but over the course of 15 years, you could save a stunning amount of money with CNG, maybe.
The currently proposed vehicles, the Navistar vehicles that I'm recommending, those would cost anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 more to convert to CNG. Each vehicle. They actually, that will not even be available. I digress. Those will not even be available until 2019.
As CNG off the factory line, which is important to us.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
For Navistar. The next option that we have is a Freightliner. Freightliner would be a step up. We try and I don't want to use the word cheap, we use the most cost-effective vehicle that we can. So the next step up is a Freightliner. A Freightliner, the truck itself costs about $2,000 more than the Navistar that we use. Or you can go with a Peterbilt, which is $6,000 more. Each of those come already with CNG. Or a Kenworth, which is about $8,000 more, or a Mack truck, which is about $12,000 more. On top of that, you add in the cost of the CNG, which again is right in that $20,000 to $30,000 range.
Right. So 30 grand plus 8 on the high side, 38 grand. Are we anywhere close over 15 years to recouping that in fuel costs? Because this is a total cost of ownership. So when we get into the formal debate, not tonight, we've got it, Joe. You know this. I've said it before. Over the life of the vehicle, what's the total cost of ownership if there's a net environmental impact?
I don't know what the cost of diesel or what the cost of CNG is going to be in the future. I can tell you that the cost of CNG in last November, that's the last cost that I had, was about $2.30 per diesel gallon equivalent. Right now, we're paying about $2.30 per gallon for diesel.
Got it. Okay.
So I think the critical thing here, to your point, Jim, is that we look out over 15 years, and yet we only have spot prices, but this is one thing that the Department of Energy forecasts pretty well, which is the cost of gasoline and the cost of natural gas. Based on, obviously, things can always change, but they have that forecast, so we can certainly run those numbers to see what those savings are. I guess my thing with all of this is a $500,000 purchase. I'm okay with making it, but we need to ramp up these discussions on both the alternative fuels and the lease versus buy, so we don't keep buying.
Right.
If that's not going to be our long-term fleet decision, because you said this last 15 years, what if in 5 years we've transferred the whole fleet over and we just have these 3 trucks? So that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Carroll.
Yeah, that just to kind of reconcile what both of you said, which is that I think the discussions do have to continue on. We also last month approved a proposal or request for with the LED streetlights. Yep. Well, one of the meetings we took last week was a vendor that wants to try and capture all that together in one package. That may be another board discussion. Are we better off long-term choosing one vendor that's going to do all 3 of those things for us? Alternative fuels, LED streetlights, and lease versus purchase vehicles. At least we had one vendor so far tell us that would be the only way they would get into the game. That's a discussion we probably will have to have during our next budget process. But yeah, I think that I agree with both of you that this is something we need to continue to discuss. I don't think that holding up this purchase would be the way to go about that at this point, though.
Well, if we did hold them up, John, could you let everyone know that Keith pulled them off the consent agenda, so it's 1-800-CALL Keith if you don't have a snowplow?
Yeah, blame it on the mayor.
Can you do that, John?
It's 1-800-MAYOR.
I'll fall on that sword for not having convinced you to make
No.
the
We can put it in
purchase.
the ordinance for you. We're happy with that, John. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Garrett?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello? Aye. Trustee Carroll?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
3 single-axis truck chassis.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve utilizing CMS contract for the purchase of 3 international truck chassis models 7400 SBA 4x2 from Rush Truck Center of Springfield, Illinois, in an amount not to exceed $261,473.
Second.
This is the rest of the truck.
This is the actual truck, right, John?
Yes.
Call the
Yeah,
roll. We've had
Approve the back
discussion.
end first, now we approve the front end.
Right.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
7 Ford all-wheel drive utility police interceptors.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve rejecting the bids for the 6 Ford AWD utility police interceptors and approve a purchase of 7 Ford AWD utility police interceptors utilizing the Suburban Purchase Cooperative vendor Curry Motors of Frankfort, Illinois, in amount not to exceed $195,405.
Second.
The reason this was increased from 6 to 7
Any
was
questions
our...
or comments?
Oh, sorry. Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
The reason this was changed from 6 to 7 is because our police officers there was an accident. Not our fault, but the squad car was destroyed.
Any other questions or comments? So I'll just make one comment. I'm not as concerned about this one because it's a 3-year, they last for 3 or 3.5 years, so not going to be in our fleet forever. So call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Application for funding of a multi-use path along 104th Street.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Ruzick.
could I get an ordinance number or resolution number?
Resolution 1802.
I move to pass resolution number 1802 entitled Resolution Authorizing Application by the Village for Cook County Department of Transportation Program Funds, Invest in Cook, for multi-use path along 104th Avenue from 159th Street to 163rd Place.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello. Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Application for funding of a multi-use path along 167th Street, Wolf Road to 104th Avenue.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Ruzick.
I move to pass resolution number 1803 entitled Resolution Authorizing Application by the Village for Cook County Department of Transportation Program Funds for multi-use path along 167th Street from Wolf to 104th Avenue.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Centennial Park West Concert 2018 discussion only.
Mr. Chairman?
This is just a discussion, right?
Correct.
Right. Trustee Calandrello.
Just to put a little background about this, this was actually on the committee agenda today, but based on time and we all were going to discuss it, we forwarded it to the board. It's just for discussion purposes. This is something that staff needs direction based on possible having to find a stage rental within the month, plus having commitments with New Lenox. So there's some concerns out there regarding budget adjustments and whatnot, but I'll let Nancy talk a little bit about the numbers and then let the board discuss and figure it out.
So,
Go ahead,
maybe
Nancy.
some background. The Village Park officials and Mayor Tim Balderman met on site at Centennial Park.
Can't hear you, Nancy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Met
Thanks.
on site at Centennial Park West. The discussion centered around partnering with the Village of New Lenox's Triple Play Series. The New Lenox Concert Series is held on Saturday nights once per month during the summer, so that's June, July, and August. In this partnership, the Village of Orland Park would contract the same Saturday act for the Friday act, and it would be one of the Friday nights that we work with them on. The staff developed a proposed budget, as you could see before you, and the details on those budgets point to the potential revenues and expenses that might be realized through the production of this high-level concert series. We started, as you could see on the first budget analysis, with 5,000 people buying tickets, and we based that on just the past in terms of what we've been able to bring in at the Centennial West concerts, which isn't as much as that number we projected, but we were thinking with a high-level concert that we possibly could be able to bring in that number, if not more. And then we also provided some additional budget documents that took a more conservative approach if we weren't able to hit that 5,000 marker, if we sold 3,000 tickets or 2,000 tickets. So you could see the different scenarios in front of you. At this time, the date and the acts for the Triple Play Series have not been identified from New Lenox. Staff expects to hear back sometime in the next month or so to determine what those acts may be. And as Trustee Calandrello alluded to, in order for us to plan for this event, we need to secure the stage, and we need a larger stage than normal just because we don't know who the act is, but we have to be prepared with that stage to accommodate them. So we're here before you just looking at direction on what our next steps would be.
And I guess I'll add a couple of things since I was involved in these meetings, is that we've been working with Mayor Balderman, who's been very gracious about saying that he thinks this absolutely would not impact his event. I know Trustee Gary, you were there for some of that. And they sell 5,000 tickets just to the New Lenox residents for all 3 concerts. And his suggestion to us was to not package them together as 3. That was something he would do differently, do them one at a time. And we wouldn't have to do all 3. We could do 1, we could do 2. Whatever we decided to do. I think he also felt that we could get discounts on the acts if we do them back-to-back nights.
Yep.
And with that thinking, knowing what can be held out there, he said, yeah, you can certainly hold far more than what they do at their location. And they have, about 25,000 residents. They sell the 5,000 tickets. So with 60,000 residents, we open up to Orland first, and if we don't sell the amount we want to, whether it's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, because we can easily host about 10,000 out there, then we open it up to the rest of the public.
If I might add, I agree. Mayor Balderman was more than gracious in hosting a few conversations and explaining how they do the process and how the talent comes to him and offering to essentially share. If they had on Saturday night, we would have the entertainment here on Friday. They sell out their tickets only to residents. It never gets beyond their residents because it's such a popular event. I understand they're already getting phone calls on this season, who's coming, what's the entertainment, people want to buy their tickets. I see no reason that the residents in Orland Park wouldn't feel excited about the same opportunity. Centennial West is designed for that in order to have a concert there, and we could certainly host a great number more people than New Lenox can because their facility, although they have a permanent stage already in place, and it's beautiful, no question, it's not as large as Centennial Park. And again, Mayor Balderman was kind enough to even come out and look at Centennial Park to give us his recommendations. So it's been a wonderful experience working with him, and I see no reason why if we were to host one, we certainly would be very successful.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Ruzick.
I have a question. Is their venue, I've never been to theirs, is their venue similar to ours? I mean, I understand ours is larger, but they have no seating.
No, it's a grassy area. It is smaller than ours. However, as Trustee Gira alluded to, they do have a permanent stage system set up. And their area is more circular and oval, if you will, where ours is a little bit more elongated. So ours is going to be unique and different, but
in terms of other facilities, washroom facilities, anything else?
Porta-johns,
they're all porta-johns too? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I might add to Nancy's comments, it's kind of a circular shape, and their police station is on the perimeter, their village hall, I think a library, so it's very contained in one area.
Relatively flat as well, right?
Yeah.
Compared to ours, which has a little bit more, a little better sight line probably than what theirs does.
I don't think it's half the size of ours.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Carroll.
If I could inquire, Director Flores, on our orchestra concerts that we've had in, say, for 4th of July, do we have any numbers as to what the largest crowds we've had there so far have been, or no? Ballpark?
We eyeball it, with the taste, we're looking at about 30 to 45,000, depending, on the day and
But I'm trying to think apples to
That's
apples.
over a
So
three-day,
that-
that's over a
Yeah.
three-day period.
Yeah.
We're talking
I
about
mean,
that.
in terms of Centennial West, I think we've looked at numbers, looking at the parking spaces that have been filled, approximately 2,000, 2,500 on some of the concerts that we've offered there.
And Nancy, who are the acts that New Lenox has put up for the last few years, just some of them?
In the past, they've had Chicago, they've had Buddy Guy, the band called Perry, Leonard Skinnard, come on, help me, Daughtry. They, mid-level tiered acts. There's some high-level, obviously Chicago is a big deal. Just got enrolled into the Hall of Fame, but.
Safe to say some of our staff has attended these events?
My second question then.
Yes, we have.
My second question would then be, I do see some fencing rental on the budget, but I see 3,000 linear feet. If this is going to be a ticketed event, which we've never had there before at Centennial Park West, we'd need a lot more than 3,000 linear feet of fencing. Have there been any discussions about how we would go about securing that perimeter? Because we have access from the east through the other park, residences to the west, to the north, and it's a pretty big undertaking as far as fencing for making it a ticketed event.
Yeah,
We've engaged.
GIS the site, that's an accurate number.
3,000 feet is?
And we also worked with the police as well on
We've
how we would
engaged-
secure it. So we already have those things have been being worked on as part of these numbers. The only thing that we don't have as far as these numbers go is the acts themselves. I mean, that's the thing that's not firmed up yet. One of them is pretty close, but we can't talk about it because New Lenox hasn't released it yet.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Dodge.
I'm thrilled. I think I still had hair when we first brought up the idea of buying Centennial Park, and Tom Dooley was on the board. So I'm glad we got the property. I'm glad we're getting to the point where we're going to be doing this. I'm not tearing up. I'm sorry, it's a little allergies. I'm not tearing up. But we've long talked about this, right? So how do you do this as a paid event? I mean, we got that properly specifically for this purpose.
We did.
And the big challenge was always prior staff had estimated the full Ravinia-esque build-out, which would have been in the $20 million range. Well, we never really wanted that. We wanted to get started with exactly this kind of event. And if we were lucky enough to have it oversubscribed, your numbers here are 5,000?
Yes.
Well, if it shoots past that, this will do well, because this is essentially a break-even budget at 5,000, correct?
Actually, at 5,000, we would be walking away with $4,500 ahead.
Plus or minus, we're government, so plus or minus, right?
Yep.
But, what I'm excited about is it's a hell of a way to kick it off. It makes perfect sense to collaborate and cooperate. And when we first looked at this property, we had the folks who were running the entertainment at Ravinia come down and give us some ideas. And so I think that we can find ways to find the quality acts we want once we get the economic model right and run more than a few concerts through there to really kind of make Orland differentiated. So I'm thrilled that we're doing this.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Calangelo.
I hate to rain on people some of the good positive thing. I'm just worried budgetary-wise. If we have a rain out, just on food and beverage alone, that's $40,000 going to hit to the budget. So I'm just a little concerned about the budget. I agree this is the future, and we need to take care of this. And I'm thrilled, as James and everyone's talked about doing this. I'm just a little worried about such a tight budget. We cut the city lights it would cost us $14,000, a free event for residents. If we're okay with losing some money, why don't we have a free event for the residents? That's just my concern. I agree, this is the future of Centennial West. We need to get there, and maybe we need some time to maybe plan one or two, so if one's bad, the other one could make up the profit margin. I'm just a little concerned budgetary-wise, and maybe if Nancy or Joe, I know Anne Marie's not here, how are we going to cover a $40,000 hit?
So, Trustee Calandrello, to answer your question, we'd have to figure out, something would have to give. And I think that the challenge, although we love the idea, it's about $142,000 that we're going to have to find until we receive the revenues later on in the summer, whenever that event is. So we're working on a pretty lean, tight budget right now. So some of these costs would need to be paid for up front. And that's just the challenge that we have.
So what's the rain insurance? I know that was in there before. I don't see it in this one, but I saw a budget before. Maybe it's in here. I just can't see it.
It's in here, yes. It's $5,000.
So I think we have insurance to cover those upfront costs, correct?
I believe so. I'll have to work further
Yeah.
with finance, but yes.
Special event premiums.
Yeah, so we have thought of that as far as putting that in there in case there is a rain event. And the goal here obviously is to actually make this accretive. I think New Lenox does 3, correct? And they said they make about 50 grand a year in that range.
Net, so to speak?
Net,
Okay.
out of the 3. That's roughly what they make.
Well, and I tell you, Mayor Picoli, I think, Trustee Calandrello brought up a good idea. My hope is that if we can get to a place where the event pays for itself with 5,000 tickets sold, if you get to 7,500 or 10,000, it gives us some operating room for exactly that, some free for kind of residents only, because if we got better at kind of fencing it, there's a couple different ways we could do it. I'm not opposed to the idea of free. We should keep doing that and support it for events. This could be I'll use the phrase, which is rare in the public sector, this could be the moneymaker.
So once again, the challenge would be, something's going to have to give for these costs, or postponed, for me to be able to pay for these expenses.
Or
up
we
front
loan it
there.
to ourselves until the money comes back, Joe.
Right.
We've got plenty of enterprise loans.
We have cash flow to do this.
Yeah, I think so. Well, no, it's worth getting it out there, because I'd love everybody in the public to understand we're doing this for a lot of reasons, because you got 10,000 people, residents or not residents, coming to town. There's an economic hit here, which is a good thing.
Right. We don't have that cash flow to fund this. We'll find it. We'll have to transfer money from our capital fund or someplace where we've got some large dollars like this, if that is the wish of the board.
Mr. Chairman?
We'll do it. I'm
Trustee
just
Fenton.
concerned that we didn't budget for it.
Trustee Fenton?
In the rain insurance, what is it actually covering? Because, if it rains, you still have to pay the band.
Right, but there are some components, like the ticket sales, where the ticket sales, the stage, I don't have that information with me. I would have to get that back to you.
So the 5,000 that you're going to put out up front, so that's a $5,000 cost you're not getting back unless it's a successful event. The only reason I'm questioning this is because I run the entertainment for Orland Days, and I know if it rains, and we tried the rain insurance once, and it didn't help us, because it's measured at Midway. Midway has to receive, I think it's an inch or 2 of rain before it will come into effect for Orland Park. But anyway, you still have to pay the band, you still have to pay for the insurance, and my concern is the same as Trustee Calandrello. I'm all for this, I've been for it ever since we started out there, but I'm just concerned with our budget, where this, what's going to be cut to cover these costs. That's my concern. We're not going to do a park? Are we not going to do a road? I don't know. Where's the money going to come from?
I don't know. We'll need to identify that.
Mr. Chairman?
It's $182,000.
It could be a bright sunny day or evening, and it could, I don't know. I guess I've been there, done that, where it rained and we had to pay.
Our budget is very lean this year. It's very lean this year in operating, which is where this would come from. I would have to probably go to our capital dollars, and it would mean that some projects might be postponed just until we would be able to recoup as Trustee Dodge had said, loan it to ourselves until we can recoup those dollars for that.
Mayor Peacock, so Nancy, back of the envelope, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike. He wasn't quite sure which ball to get a call. If we get another 5,000 at 30 ahead, that's $150,000 revenue over costs, round numbers.
Well,
Yes.
according to the numbers here, it would be
Plus beer
194.
and sales as well.
So this is,
Explain what we're looking at for this.
Right,
venue,
for
resale.
people in the audience, the budget was set to assume 5,000 tickets sold at $30 a piece. With all that in, plus the beer and other sales, you'd get to about 180 grand. The cost would be about 180 grand. So it could be break even at 5,000 people. We have no idea if we're going to get 4,099 or 9,099. We don't know.
Or 199.
Right. Well, you're going to buy a ticket. So, this one will be hard, but I guess I would challenge, staff to figure out, we've got liquidity. The question is, it's not necessarily out of operational expenses. So yeah, Joe, to your point, it's going to have to come from somewhere to advance this. But when we bought this piece of property, I don't even recall what we bought it for. Millions? The goal was always to develop something like this to make Orland, put Orland in a different place, as I want to say, just attract usages like this to get more big entertainment coming through town to support the economic development cycle. That's always been the goal. It's taken us 10 years to get to this point. I'd rather if we could find a way to find the money and not blink when we're on the cusp of doing something big. How does New Lenox make money out of this? They just committed to it and they did it.
In talking to their village administrator, they said they're just about breaking even right now, just because of the cost of their ticket sales. But I think I can't remember the cost of it offhand. But in talking to their village administrator, they said they're just about breaking even right now with their ticket sales.
Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Carroll. On the one hand, as Trustee Dodge mentioned, I love the idea of having concerts at this park. I, too, was involved when Tom Dubelby was trying to put together the Ravinia of the South, as he called it back then. I was involved in trying to convince Mr. DiPaolo, who owned the land at the time, to donate the land. And there was some involvement with some of the civic organizations in town. They were going to be involved in that as well. In fact, the Lions Club was discussed about being the liquor vendor and having liquor licenses out there for the entire concert series. And that was something that was near and dear to me back then. To have concerts out there, I think would be phenomenal. And I'm 100% behind it. That being said, using your phrase, Mr. Lamargo, we just went through a budget process where we cut a lot of programs from Director Flores' budget. We cut a lot of things. The concert for the 4th of July, the City Lights Orchestra, Pandemonium, the Chili Cook-Off. And we went to the public and told them, in order to meet our budget for the year, we had to cut all these programs. Some of them went by without a squeak. We didn't hear anything from the public about them. Other ones, we've been getting a lot of comments from the public. Why did you get rid of my favorite event? I just can't, as much as I love the idea of having concerts out there, get behind amending the budget or asking staff to come up with $180,000 on something that maybe 5 years from now or 10 years from now, if we follow New Lenox's lead, is breaking even. So I love the idea long term. I'd love to have further discussions for next year's budget. I just think it's irresponsible to do it on short notice. Everything else that we have that's similar in the village that is free to attend, we're lucky if we get 150, 200 people out. Or in the case of the 4th of July, maybe a couple thousand. Where we need to get to 5,000 to break even on this one. So I'd feel much more comfortable taking a longer look at this and finding ways to engineer it to where it doesn't cost us as much perhaps, or to find ways to budget money for it, on the other hand, to where we're not putting ourselves in this predicament.
Trustee Rizek.
I had a question. Were you anticipating charging residents and non-residents the same amount for ticket prices?
In our discussions, we've just focused currently on resident sales. We haven't really talked through the non-resident piece. One thing in talking to New Lenox is that their priority is their residents, and then if there's anything left over, they open it up. But
do they charge a higher ticket price?
They don't ever have to open it up.
They never get there.
I don't think they've had to open it. Yeah.
So our discussions were resident, let's set a target above 5,000 because we felt that this could hold more than 5,000. This was our initial discussions when we were out there, and then see where we get with residents, and then we can open it up to other residents, because New Lenox does get questions from Homer Glen and from other surrounding communities. And the other thing too is they would help market so that both events would be successful. So.
Yeah.
Trustee
So,
Guerra. No, go ahead.
Are we thinking just trying one this year? Is that the thought? I mean, because
Yes.
it's just one, right?
One.
We're not jumping
Correct.
into all three.
Because we'd have to.
It depends on who the acts are and
triple
when
the
they
price
come
of
up to the.
That's for one.
The one we're talking about, we need 182,000 to cover one.
140.
I think it was
187.
Yeah, 187.
187, okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I guess my thought would be, I would be okay with one. We know we're going to sell some tickets. I mean, are we going to sell 5,000? I'm not sure. But I would not be in favor of going for two or three at this point until we see how one goes.
Again, my only concern is, the upfront costs with that, and then if we don't break even, and we would be moving it from our home rule sales tax, which is our capital budget, which for operating expenses.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
would it be possible to, since this is just a discussion anyway, to discuss it, continue the discussion in 2 weeks and find out if staff is able to come up with where the money would come from, and so we can find out where we stand?
Good idea.
That's, I know that would put recreation in a hard spot in
Well,
terms of
I
getting.
think the concern or the challenge is the stage. That's, we were hoping to have an idea.
When's the go, no-go on the stage?
ASAP. I don't have a date, I'm sorry. I
They have
don't have a
one
date.
stage, correct?
Yeah, there's one stage in the state of Illinois that has these specs that we need, so.
But you don't know which concert you're picking, so how could you schedule a stage?
I think it'll be a small stage.
Well, I think at the end of the day, continuing to have the discussions until we either line up a band, or if the stage says, hey, they can't do that day, then those go away. And if they don't go away, then we pull it off. There's no reason why we have to stop it now. I mean, right now, what are we doing right now? We're basically waiting for the acts, correct? That's kind of where we're at in the process, which is really New Lenox starting that conversation and us getting involved after that.
Right. I think the other reason why we wanted kind of a direction from the board is because New Lenox is talking to these acts, and we don't want to put them in a situation where they're thinking that Orland Park is going to be participating in this, and maybe there's however they're designing their fee for it, and then all of a sudden Orland Park says, no, if we decide not to go. I think it's letting them know as well, so that when they're negotiating with their
So I know when we talked to Mayor Balderman, we talked about we may not do all three, we may just do one, so he's aware of that as far as his bands. What he's trying to do is first secure his, and then seeing are they willing to do a second day in a row or not, because some of them may not be willing. So that's kind of where he's at. So I don't think we're impacting his negotiations per se, based on the conversation.
If I may, sorry.
Trustee Guerra.
The recreation programs that we have eliminated this year, such as the Pandemonium Run, it wasn't eliminated because there was such a demand for it. Yes, it was very well done. Danny, I know, but did it break even financially?
Lost
No.
25 grand.
So that's why the Pandemonium Run, would it be successful one day? Absolutely. It could be a revenue generator, but we didn't get the response to the Pandemonium Run we do to, say, a turkey trot, which took, 25 years to build up the following. I know you're a runner, Danny, God love you. But at this point, it's not financially feasible to continue to subsidize that event. Then I would say, the same thing, Market in the Park, we're bringing that back in a smaller version, which is great. The way we had it initially, yes, it was not a profit center for us.
That
So
was because you had entertainment that wasn't sponsored.
Well, okay, there were reasons, but my point is, we didn't just hack programs because we wanted to eliminate them. When our recreation department goes through the process regularly, which programs continue and which ones do not, by the response from the residents in town. If the enrollment in an art class does not deem, there's only 2 people, then it's not offered the following year. That's all. And I think that's what we kind of did. We just went through that, and we'll never know with this until we try it.
My suggestion with this, based on this conversation, is that we don't have to make a decision today.
Right.
The background work is done. And, yeah, when the stage calls and says, hey, we're not available anymore, we need to know, well, then we're at SOL if,
You still have.
at the end of the day, that's where we're at if they don't have the stage. But we have to find out when the acts are going to be here, and then see if the stage is available, and then we can decide, do we push forward with this or not?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to, on the stage alone, I do know there are 2 or 3 vendors that carry national, or that can put together a national quality act stage. So I think there's more than one, but there aren't a lot. She's right on that.
So,
Yeah.
so why don't we just, we've had a good discussion here, why don't we just leave it at that? You've done the background work, let's see what happens with the negotiations, and then once we actually have something in hand, then we can have that conversation, very quickly as far as do we want to go forth or not, based on who the act is, and can we pull it all together? Because we'll know the date. I mean, New Lenox is going to set the date, right?
Right.
If they set an August date that's Taste of Orland, it's not happening, that act is not coming here, right? I mean, we're not going to do that. So why don't we wait until we see that and then make the decision from there?
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Calendar.
I just wonder, I'm just a little worried that we're going to burn our bridge with New Lenox and our future partners. I just don't know. I haven't been working with them. I know you have, Trustee Guerra has, Nancy has, and Joe has. I just don't want us to set up a bad a first attempt should have a bad taste in their mouth. That's the only concern I have. That
I've had 4 meetings with them. We're not going to burn the bridge with them. They understand the situation.
And, I just know that the rec department has been trying their best to stay within budget and within what they need, and cutting programs that were growing, just like the turkey trot grew after 25 years. So if that's what the board wants to continue it, I'm just a little worried about burning bridges, but it'd be good to get to figure out where the money would come from, so.
Trustee Dodge.
I'm sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut you
I
off.
was just going to say a second trustee Fenton's motion, if you need a second one to postpone or
Yeah,
table
so
it.
I'd be fine with having a motion for. I just had a quick question for Nancy.
It's a discussion item.
So Nancy, you said the stage looks like it's about 17 grand,
Yes.
right? So that seems to be the crux here, right? If we have no stage, we're not going to get these performers to just stand there and go acoustic, although that might be kind of quaint, right? So do you have a way to hedge and try and at least get started on some of the contracting? Because if the choice is don't do anything because we can't quite figure out the money in time, or don't lose the entire season because we can't lock down the stage, do you have any negotiating ability to try and lock up that stage for a little bit and pay a fee to do that, and then we blow it up? Right? It's kind of tough, but I'm just trying to figure if there's any hedge, because, I mean, if we go secure the stage, right?
Based on our conversations with New Lenox, they're going to line up these acts pretty quickly. I mean, we're in a pretty short time window now for them to lock up these acts, so we're going to know within probably the next month.
Mr. Chairman, did they give you any dates yet?
No, they haven't given us dates. That's what we talked about.
The other thing I wouldn't mind, Joe, and we can figure out who's going to go do this. We have some capacity to do some research, right? Which is, if I'm not mistaken, Nancy, there's more than a few, not just New Lenox does this, there's more than a few park districts around who have sponsored some fairly big names. So let's go get other governmental agencies' experience. It's all going to be there. They pay this much, it costs this much, they make that much. So we've got a background for multiple cases for this. To Mike's point, if we're lean, and we are, then let's, we'll ask, that's a request, which is let's go do the research, because previous assistant village manager never completed that task. And so I'd like to see that report I asked for a couple years back, which is what the hell is happening in other park districts and entities that are doing exactly the same thing a lot with big name acts. They're not doing it for free. So. Thanks, Joe.
So given that, it seems that, is the board in general agreement? Seems like at least 5 of us are, to just continue to keep this open and see what happens, and we don't have to make a call today.
I would agree with keeping it open.
Yeah. So why don't we do that, and let's just see how it goes. And then when we have to make a call, we have to make a call, and we'll make that call at that time. Go ahead and move on to the next agenda item.
Centennial Park Aquatic Center vertical turbine pump replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Calangiolo.
I move to approve award bid 18010 Centennial Park Aquatic Center vertical turbine pumps replacement, amount not to exceed $124,600 to Chicagoland Construction, Inc. of Madison, Illinois.
Are there any questions or comments? So I have a question. The low bidder was 15 grand lower, and it shows here that he didn't acknowledge addendum number 1, which sometimes happens because they didn't get it in time, or they sent in their paperwork beforehand. But he did send an email saying that he received it.
He did, Mr. Mayor, I also included some of the emails that I also included an email chain that I had with the low bidder. During the bid process, he penned in a miscellaneous charge of roughly $39,000 at the bottom of the bid.
Okay.
I asked him to break it down to me per pump or per unit, so that I could get accurate pricing per unit, because I couldn't afford to do all 5 units that we priced out. Attached, his number is actually higher than the number 2 bidder.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Calangiolo.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Uzick.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Centennial Park Aquatic Center slide renovations.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Calendro.
I move to approve RFP number 18-004, Centennial Park Water Slide Renovations to IPS Water Slides, Inc. of Sandwich, Illinois, in an amount not to exceed $195,850.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? So I have a question on this one as well. We have, the low bidder was about $61,000 less than the bidder that we are choosing.
Correct.
So what's the reason and rationale for that?
Correct, Mr. Mayor. This wasn't a bid, this was a request for proposals. The lowest price proposal from Slide Pros, which is the one you're referring to, they did not meet the spec of the product that we required. The product they are proposing to use is something that we currently have on the slides that has failed, which is 1 to 5 mils thickness, where we're looking for a product that's about 20 to 25.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge. Aye. Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Centennial Park Aquatic Center link seal replacement.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Calendro.
I move to approve bid 18/007, Centennial Park Aquatic Center link seal replacement and repair in the amount not to exceed $35,201 to Crossroads Construction, Inc. of Madison, Illinois.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? So I have a question and comment here too. We have only one bidder, and they did not complete the affidavit of compliance, which might be an oversight, but they only provided 2 references. So are we comfortable that they can do the work?
Yes, we've had them do work with us before.
All right. Call the roll.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. And now we have public comments. Michael and Linda Tropic. Okay. Marlene Siska. Okay. There, neither of those people are here. So, board comments. Trustee Guerra.
No comment.
Trustee Carroll.
I just wanted to comment that I received a few phone calls over the weekend about a illegal robocall that was placed over the weekend to many Orland Park residents. We had that issue before, once or twice, and we've made comments about it, but I just want to remind people, if they do receive a robocall that doesn't identify by whom it's paid, contact the FCC. If it goes to your cell phone, contact the FCC. There are complaint forms available on their website. If you get those robocalls, it's not anyone, no one I know of sitting here that's responsible for them. But if you do get those and you wish to file a complaint, that's where you'd file a complaint.
Trustee Dodge.
Glad to see we're moving forward in some way, shape, or form with Centennial. Long time coming.
Trustee Fenton.
Nothing.
Trustee Calendro.
I just want to wish everyone a happy Kazimierz Pulaski Day. If you don't know what that is, that's a Revolutionary War hero that came from Poland. My mother would be proud. Thank you.
Trustee Ruzick.
Just a reminder that our Irish trolleys will be running this Saturday. Speaking of an event that started out, I think, 4 years ago, with, a good turnout, but it has just grown exponentially and is very much become a favorite of residents and non-residents. So I'd encourage those of you who are so inclined to participate in celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
Well, now that we've called out the Polish and the Irish, I guess we'll have a call out for the Germans, although we have a much more sordid history. So my only comments are, last week I had the opportunity to testify again at Cook County. It seems like they just can't stop themselves at the Cook County Board. And today I had another emergency meeting regarding that. So I urge the residents to also make these calls as well. But they're currently trying to force prevailing wage requirements onto private businesses for any of the economic incentives, which I think about 30 or 40 mayors spoke, all unilaterally with the same message. And this would decimate the south suburbs. It would decimate the South Hollands, the Thorntons, the Daltons, the Harveys, because that's the only way that they're getting any kind of building right now going on with Indiana so close is with those economic incentives, and basically it makes it a disincentive for them to do that. So I encourage you all to get involved with that. It's, again, Cook County running amok. They're about 2% of our taxes, but they're trying to basically drive business out of the south suburbs, and it's not, it's universally every one of the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Group is against it. So I was happy to support our neighbors on that. It does have some impact on us, but not nearly what it does to the people to the east of us. So with that, thank you all for coming tonight, and we can go to executive session.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
Move to go into executive session for A, approval of minutes, B, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific village employees, and C, setting a price for sale or lease of village property.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Calangelo. Aye. Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick. Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
That was fun.
Yes, that was fun.